Evolution star in VR. Hello there everybody and welcome to OpenFed Gaming. You're listening to the OpenFed. We are driving in a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 6 GSR TM edition. We're driving it in a Evolution meeting race at the Kyoto Driving Park on the Yamagiwa+Miyabi reverse track. Wow, that's a lot to say. We're doing 3 laps. We started 12th of 12 and we started with a rolling start. Now I do gotta admit, I was not very enthusiastic about driving a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, not one of my favorite cars. Plus, I wasn't too thrilled about the track either. Didn't really think it was such a cool track. But after driving it, I do gotta admit, I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this race. The car, although not one of my favorites, was quite a bit of effort to try and keep it under control. It bounces sideways a little bit, and it's a little bit hard to drive, but that made it even more interesting to try and control it properly. And the track actually was really cool. They're not short laps. The laps are decent length, so you have the opportunity to try and drive the track as clean as possible and see how it runs and see what the cars are going to do. And it was actually really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this race. So, you know, you can't always take a race or a car, like the track or a car, by its face value. Drive it and see what you think. And in VR, it makes everything a lot better, I believe. It's a lot more fun. Anyhow, we are running through here. We're about 3/4 of the way through the first lap. Here is one of the sections where you can pass. Now there isn't a lot of them. Here's the one by the grandstand, and there's this one, and maybe one other one, but not really great opportunities. Plus, when you're running along here, these tracks where they turn, I know they're nice and wide, and if you had lots of power in your car, you could pass them on the outside, sure. But you're not going to have that kind of power in a Evolution meeting race because they're all Mitsubishi Evolutions, right? They're all Lancer Evolutions. So they're not going to be overly powered. So when you see the nice wide track, it's not going to do you any good because you got to catch up to the next guy. You got to be able to blast by him for the width of the track to help you out in. In the meantime, if you're running as fast as you are, you don't have many places to pass except for when you come to a straight section like this, right where we finish our first lap. So that's the race. Catch up to the next guy, stick with him because, like I said, there's not a lot of places to pass, but there's such a cool race, and these cars being so plain Jane and not a favorite car ends up being such a cool car to drive. So as we're catching up to these guys, I'm not quite sure how many cars we've passed and how many there's left in the pack, but we had 11 to pass, and with 3 laps you got to pass 3 or 4 per lap to be able to get to the front of the pack, which is where you want to be. Now I believe once we get past these 3, we're going to be a little closer to the front of the pack, but like I said, here's the other section that's straight, that's not bad, but it's hard to pass because of curves going down. So it's a little difficult, but that's okay. Right here is a really good opportunity to pass. Cut them on the inside, you got a straight section you can usually catch. If you're close enough behind somebody, you usually catch somebody napping. Sometimes you can catch 2 people napping. And that way you can squeeze by them and get in front of them and get a little bit closer to the front of the pack. Now, I'm not sure if these 2 cars are the last 2 cars, if they're the 2 front cars. I think I've passed about 8 or 9 already. So all we can do is put our pedal to the metal, get a little, oh no, see there's 2 cars way ahead there. So there's still 4 cars in front of us. So we're in 5th place at the moment. So that's not that great. But then again, we're about halfway through the race right now. So this here, where it straightens out again, we can pass 1 more. Now we know we've got 2 in front of us for sure, and I think they might be the last 2. They're way up there. They're going to take the rest of this lap to catch up to them, I believe, because they're quite a ways ahead of us. Maybe if everything works out good, if we can catch up to them, we can pass them down by the grandstand, and then we can take a victory lap in that last lap on the race. We're going to see if we can accomplish that. But here, we're coming up closer to them, but like I said, the lap is almost over. I do believe around the corner up here, we're going to be curling back towards the grandstand. Curl to the right here. There we go. Yeah. Okay, and as we're coming up to the grandstand, that will be our second lap gone. And we still got 2 cars to catch up to, so the Opafet's got his work cut out for him. Now, the lap is of decent length, but when there is not a lot of places to pass, it's going to make it difficult. And we still got 2 to pass. So let's just catch up to them first and get a little bit closer as we're flowing back and forth using the full width of the track, like I always try to preach. When you do that, when you do use the full width of the track, you end up not having to slow down quite as much as if you were not using the width of the track, because then you cut the corners real short and you have to use a lot of brakes. We don't want to do that. We want to keep this car going forward at the optimal speed that the track will allow. So we passed that one guy. Now we've only got 1 guy left in front of us, and we've got about half the lap left to go. Now normally we could have caught him here. Maybe we still can. There's enough of a distance. Ooh, we almost didn't make it because we weren't close enough behind him. But just because you're in front of him now doesn't mean you're going to win. Keep an eye on that rear view mirror, because we don't always pay attention to that, and sometimes these guys go whipping by in front of us, beside us, 2 in front of us, and you end up losing the race. And sometimes they do it right at the end, right near the checkered flag. That's happened to me before. So we want to try and avoid that. So we want to give it a little bit of push and go a little hard, but we don't want to drive erratic. Keep an eye on the rearview mirror. There's nobody close behind us. The other car that we just passed, that silver one, is, I would say, about a second behind us. So not a long distance. If you end up doing something wrong, spinning out, hitting the wall or whatever, but far enough behind us that if we can drive a nice clean race the way we're going right now, there is no way that he's going to be able to catch up to us. It's just not going to happen. We're going to end up winning this race. We're going to stay ahead of him. And it was an enjoyable race to run. I really liked this one, and I hope you did too. Hope to see you back at Opafet Gaming again real soon. You have a great rest of your day. You've been racing with the Opafet.